Yeah, well, what I was going to say, Nathan, is in personal news. I'm no longer a treasury dealer. So
No longer deal on the treasure.
It is HQLA. This is episode 16, brought to you live by two non-financial professionals. Two unemployed boys.
I am employed.
Oh, sorry, one unemployed boy. And Nathan, who sometimes works at school. Alrighty. Nathan, do you have a...
Actually, I do.
We are cowboys now. Okay. Excellent. I don't think that's exactly how he sent it, but I think I got the spirit of it. That was pretty much it.
It's very impressive.
Excellent. All right, so there's been a couple of things going on this week. I'd like to start with a little bit of news.
Okay.
So the first one, I would like to say Jeff Bezos risked it all this week.
Yes, he did.
By going and getting Botox. So that was a huge fashion mistake. But in all seriousness, went to on the Blue Origin ship out into outer space.
Yep,
So
it's true.
pretty cool. I think
He went a little bit further than the other one, right?
He went a little further. So I think the whole competition was that Richard Branson went 62 miles or something like that.
Right.
And then Jeff put up a thing through Blue Origin that was basically like, but real outer space is 100 miles. And so he went 100 miles or whatever. Like in reality, they both went further than an airplane can physically go. Yes. I don't know. I feel like it's
it's still impressive.
It's both space,
It's interesting to see Elon's response as opposed to like the other guys. Like when Richard was going to do his thing, like the response of Jeff is that.
Yeah.
And then the response of Elon is like to go around and be like, hey, like
showed up in his kitchen.
Yeah, apparently. Like, go and have a good time, like whatever, like he's all about progressing just technology as a whole, not just himself and his organization. So it's really cool.
For sure, yeah. And I really liked it that Elon showed up barefoot in the kitchen.
Allegedly, that's what happened.
That was quite funny.
It is funny.
My second piece of news is, unless you've got something you want to jump into.
No, nothing short.
Okay, I've got Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, has a very successful and our
Nancy
Pelosi's husband,
okay,
is our Trader of the Week, I reckon.
Okay,
this is our segment.
Right.
So, he's having a record profitable time trading options.
Okay.
So the story here is that Nancy's husband Paul locked in a $5.3 million profit from trading Alphabet options a week before the House panel considered Alphabet for an antitrust bill.
Oh.
So the current antitrust hearings are applying to Amazon, Alphabet, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft.
Yep.
So the bill aims to limit the monopoly power of the individual companies.
Mm-hmm.
And the exact trade here was 40 call options, which gave Paul the ability to purchase 4,000 Alphabet shares at $1,200, which at the time they were trading at $2,550. So the whole idea is that he executed his call options a week before Nancy decided to go after Google for antitrust stuff,
which would have plunged the stock.
Yeah. So it would have sent it into a bit of volatility, and like it's the likely outcome of being investigated is always that the stock goes down. Like there's no good investigation that's like yes we want to break up your company.
True.
So some of the other trades he's done in the last month include Nvidia, which we briefly touched on last episode.
Right.
Amazon and Apple. And back in January, Paul spent between $500,000 and $1 million on Tesla calls.
Yep.
And he spent between $500,000 and $1 million on Apple calls as well. So he's made some undisclosed profits from those two plays as well.
Wow.
So pretty cool. Bit of an options trader.
Good on you, Paul.
Yeah.
Is that his full-time gig or has he got something else?
I think he trades options.
Gotcha.
House husband, No, I think he has an investment firm, but you never know, hey? It's
awesome.
It's always funnier to just say house husband if the wife's more successful. I've got more news. Robinhood files its S1 with the SEC.
What does that mean?
The S1 form means that they're filing for the right to go public with the SEC.
Wow.
And it's going to be listing 35% of its shares accessible to the public.
Wow.
If you want to hear more about Robinhood, we talked about it in episode 4.
Yeah, we did.
When we were discussing the GME saga.
That's right.
GameStop and AMC.
Yep.
And meme stocks because they were going crazy in February. So
yeah, that's true.
That's what we're going with there. So Robinhood, Vlad Tenev, pretty interesting company, but a lot of the Reddit traders don't seem to like it.
True.
But we'll see how we go.
True. Even last episode when we were talking about the brokerage options, we ended up talking about how Robinhood makes their money.
Yeah.
As well, which is really
payment
interesting.
for order flow.
Right.
Yeah. So, what else have we got? Protest in Sydney happening right now.
Right.
Kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah. Not very Australian.
No, it's not ideal, but we'll see what happens. And Olympians in Tokyo are experiencing no sponsors and no fans. So they're getting the worst deal. Japan's getting the worst deal out of the whole thing. Japanese sponsors have spent $3 billion in the lead up to the Olympics.
Yep.
And they're all pulling out to avoid appearing to support the games. Toyota was the major sponsor that's now out now.
Right. Yep.
And the Olympian beds are made out of cardboard.
Really?
Yeah, so there you go.
That's interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Sound.
Perfect.
PLTR, Palantir. This is going to be...
We've talked about this before.
We have talked about this before. This is going to be a part 2 of what we've talked about before.
Which episode did we talk about this on?
We talked about this in episode 1. It was
really?
our very first...
Sitting on the roof?
It was our very first...
we were looking at each other.
Segment, we were looking at each other. It was a little bit of a weird vibe. We don't actually like looking at each other now.
And you were in the Christmas...
I was in the Christmas shirt, yes. I'll put a little playback clip from that one. Don't watch that episode. Because now you're going to hear the same thing, but it's going to be better. It's going to be 10 times better.
Okay.
Because it's 10 times more researched. So...
Perfect.
I'm going to open with the products.
Okay.
So this is really cool. It's basically there are basically 3 products from Palantir, and 2 of them are like the main product offerings, and one of them is the supporting product that goes behind the scenes of each one. Okay. So their first product is called Gotham.
Gotham?
So this
great name.
It's a very great name. This is software for counterinsurgency and defense decision making.
Yep.
So it's actually really cool. So operational and strategic decisions is how it's used.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an interface which will take in the data. And they used a really good example in one of their... Palantir has a really nice YouTube channel. It's got really good... it's got really good media on there.
Okay.
So they take in a Chinese submarine moving in the South China Sea that can be seen moving on a satellite, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Palantir alerts this analyst at the US base, right? And who is like in charge of watching that area, you know?
Yep.
And it'll show like past movements, and it'll categorize which offensive formation that the movement is in.
Oh, really?
And it'll use AI to show... it'll like show which part of the fleet it's part of, and it'll use AI to show like the projected routes as well, and calculate the kind of most dangerous routes. So in this scenario, in this modeled kind of scenario, it showed it's got like all the carriers and submarines and destroyers which are moved together, which are part of the same fleet. Yeah. And it'll give a full list of intel and media available for that. Yeah. And the AI data will create like a whole model which compiles all the relevant data and shows if this movement is an increased level of activity, or if it's just a regular level of activity. Yeah. So if it's an increased level, it's an increased level of activity in this scenario. Yes. And in this example, so there's a submarine that's moving north towards a Taiwanese port. Okay. And there's a huge amount of fishing vessels that are being rafted together to form a blockade around the port.
Okay.
So what happens is on the satellite, it shows the rafting up of the vessels, and it shows how they're obviously doing something that's not like a usual. So they're doing something that's not a usual like activity.
Yep.
And so the US has interests in Taiwan because Taiwan, and here's a little link back to the last episode, produces 80% of the world's semiconductors.
Ah.
Where AMD's chips are made.
Were you saying then that the Palantir Gotham software can determine that the shipping vessels or whatever are in a formation that's unusual, and it can alert because of that as well?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's really cool. So then,
okay,
what happens is it'll alert both about the blockade and the Chinese submarine moving.
Yep, gotcha.
And then it starts to like let that analyst know that there's a Chinese destroyer from the same fleet that's gone missing. Like it's not. It's imaged the port that destroyer is normally at.
Yeah.
And it takes that port and it says, oh, okay, there's an empty slot here where the destroyer normally is.
Yeah.
And then it's really cool. So
it does an awful lot more thinking than I thought it did.
Yeah. So it's crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, this is where it gets really good, I think.
Okay.
So what it does then is it uses AI to develop a series of paths that the ship is likely taken from the radius, from like the maximum radius away from the home port.
The ship it calculates the route that it's possibly been on to get there.
So it'll calculate 4 or 5 routes that it's likely going to take.
Oh, it's going to take.
So it's saying, okay, it's either going here for a military exercise, it's going down south on its regular patrol, it's going up north on its regular patrol, or it's going northeast towards straight to the Taiwanese port, right? And so then the only one that poses a risk to the US is if it's going for the Taiwanese port. So here is where it's really cool. The analyst from their Palantir Gotham system has the ability to reroute 2 satellites to meet the ship and satellite image where it forks off, like where the route would fork off into the dangerous route or the regular route. So it has the ability to do that. And then once that, so in this scenario, once they have like sent the satellites to intercept with where the route would fork, they found that actually the ship's moving too fast or too slow. We haven't been able to like there's a 47% probability that we're going to be able to see it or something like that. And so then it goes, would you like to deploy drone from Hawaii base? Approximate time 4 hours. And so then the analyst can go right there, deploy the drone, and then it finds. Then what happens is the drone is able to image the ship and use AI to determine if that's the same shape as the 3D model that it has in its like Palantir Gotham brain.
Wow.
So it's really cool. So then it's able to link that and base it there. And then what happens is that the US commander of the base is alerted, all that kind of thing. And what happens with that is they're able to then send orders from Gotham straight to a US, say like the USS Kennedy or like the nearest ship. And it says, okay, this scenario is 6 hours for the ship to reroute and be like at that port. And then it goes, this scenario is high risk, 15 hours. Send fleet of F-15s to fly over the ship, and like threaten them basically. This scenario is send this plane from here to circle the port. And so like there's a series of scenarios that it comes up with. And it has run a model of how risky that scenario is likely to be, like based on all the past outcomes and all the data that it's got.
Wow.
So then what happens is they decide to in that scenario, they decide to reroute the US ship. And what happens is the drone that's watching the Chinese destroyer notices. So like what happens is the ship starts to head towards the port, the US ship, and then the Chinese destroyer starts to veer left and pretend that it was monitoring the coast. And so the whole idea is that the Chinese had obviously the same amount of data. And using their own systems. and they could see the US ships start to move towards
Whoa.
the port.
That's crazy.
They start moving away from the port because they're like, okay, we're making an aggressive move here.
And they're so far away.
But yeah, and they're all just like making moves, and it's all just this big strategic like landmine. And so so Gotham there was very important because it was able to allow for the decision making to happen, which probably could cost like millions of lives if they just let the Chinese ship just go straight to that port, start blocking it off, and they'll start shooting transport ships or whatever. Not that they're like China is particularly. China is quite aggressive in the South China Sea, but it's it's an interesting situation because they're not going to do anything to harm their relationship with the US either. So it's all passive action. It's all putting ships in front of ships, even when they're your allies, when they're your technical allies. So
Wow.
So that's one product. So that's Gotham.
That's interesting.
And that's used by.
It almost brings forward the conflict so that no one ever has to see each other. As you're saying, it's just a series of like, let's move the boat in this direction. Yeah. And then they're monitoring the same information. It's so interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
So that's that one I find fascinating. Their next product is equally fascinating, but is commercial. So Gotham is used by all different militaries around the world, who are basically allies of the US because it's a US company. Okay. And like as I talked about in part 1, it was founded after 9/11. For the US military, like to provide some really good, info. Yes. So the next product that they make is Foundry. Now this one is commercial. It's not a military. Okay. Operation. It's not a military. Piece of software. So Foundry is a data integration and management platform. It's a suite of analytical tools, and it's an operational platform of applications for business users. Nathan, you might be wondering, what does all that mean?
I was wondering that.
Well, I'm going to go into it.
Tell me more.
You don't need to worry.
Perfect.
So the way that they put it is Foundry is the central decision support infrastructure. So what that means is it translates data and models for humans to make better decisions in companies. And so one thing that Foundry does really well is it's called the ontology and simulation engine. So ontology I had to look up because who knows what that is.
I don't.
Ontology is a name for their operations optimization, and the word ontology translates to the concepts and the categories of a subject or area, which shows it's like a philosophical concept that shows those categories. That like helps to like make those better decisions. So it's like it's literally a word that kind of it's like a philosophy. But anyway, so ontology in this case just means it's their system for making better decisions. Okay. Gotcha. And you build that out for each company. So each company is able to build that out in Palantir, in Foundry. Okay. So, the idea is that it's able to provide a two-way system. Foundry is able to provide a two-way system between data and real-world outcomes. Yeah. So what that means is anyone in the organization can use it, and they put in specific data they need to enter, and then the system can then feedback and optimize the data in a way that helps each end user make the operational decisions. Yeah. So factory, plant, operation, sensors, the back end of finance, the logistics, the workflow. The data flows through and it's collected and organized in Foundry, and then it ultimately shows how each process goes from start to finish in a manufacturing operation. Right. So one way that that's shown is it'll take this is this person's process. So this person on the factory floor does paints this door, or does this. Yep. And then it goes to the next part where if it's a car or whatever, attaches the door to the body, and then the next part is the chassis is made, and so like there's a full flow chart of outcomes basically. Yep. So that's a really interesting one.
So I assume the setup time for this would be a little extensive. So I don't Palantir would have to come in, meet with the company, basically consult with them for a while. Understand how the process works, create all of this sort of information for it to then be able to make these decisions on, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So
right. I reckon it would be so expensive.
yeah, it's quite crazy. So a real world use is a factory. So someone on a factory floor has uploaded an accidental oversupply of finished goods.
Okay.
The goods have been finished months ago and not been accounted for. The supply chain analyst is then able to use Foundry to see the finished goods that are about to expire, and then they flag the goods as a sales opportunity and notify a sales manager, who can then discount the goods and provide and prevent them from expiry and sell them to the end customer.
Yeah.
So another really good use, and one thing that they can do there as well, they can start to partially fulfill orders. The supply chain analyst can partially send an order to, and it integrates APIs with emails and all different logistics systems that are tracking orders and all that kind of thing. So it can API, and so the end user, or the people that are fulfilling orders, don't even have to use Palantir. They just get an email from Foundry which says fulfill 70% of this order.
Yeah.
If they work best with emails, if they work best with phones, it can literally call them and say, do this, do this much. So it's a fully it's got endless APIs basically that plug into it. So yeah, they can also use it to reallocate stock from different warehouses.
Yep.
And a great use is the no-code supply chain control tower. So that's where they're looking at a full map of all of the different distribution centers, and it can automatically apply customers to it'll assign customers to a distribution center.
Yep.
And they can literally see a full map of where the goods are going and optimize that. So it's pretty cool. So it's a no-code solution with thousands of use cases.
Yeah.
They can add people to tasks, schedule cargo flights, add a new level of authorization for a certain process. They can assign automated alerts for certain actions. Certain things happen. It's very clever.
Wow.
And it can connect with it can connect with bank accounts. It connect with financial systems. It basically plugs into everything and interfaces. It can even interface with a machine control system, which means that if someone who's in America needs to start up a machine in Europe, and start a manufacturing process, and no one's there, they can API into the back end of the machine and start using
We
the
suggest
machine.
you do this. Would you like to do it? Yes.
Yeah.
Starts it up.
Yeah, and you can start up a machine, manufacturing. Right. So yeah, if you don't have any staff in your factory, and you have literally it's the beginning of really clever. It's a good system. Let's say that. Sick of saying that. So there's a huge amount of automation that can happen in factories. I can see that being very, very useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So their third product I'm going to talk about is Apollo.
Okay.
So Apollo, from what I can tell, and this one's definitely the most complicated.
Okay.
Apollo is the server system behind Foundry and Gotham. So in a typical scenario, a company can operate using Amazon's AWS servers or Microsoft Azure or some other cloud-based service, right? But Palantir actually is made for military applications and that kind of thing. So they have to be able to run when they're in the middle of the sea on a submarine, or running a drone operation in Afghanistan with without the traditional internet and cloud systems available. Yeah. So when you're trying to run those counterinsurgency operations, it's all about having localized servers that are extremely reliable. So those servers must always work, because literally lives are depending on on the outcomes.
Absolutely.
So that's it's the platform behind the platform.
Yeah, right.
So it's the seems to be the API that keeps all the software running in the background. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So and it also keeps everything maintained and updated to the highest level. So
okay, so this is potentially physical infrastructure around the world of servers in specific locations.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. I wonder if they do anything specific. I wonder if if the U.S. Defense Force say we're going to do this big mission in X location. I wonder if they consult Palantir and Palantir say, we need to implement some infrastructure to make that happen. I don't know. Like, interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so 3 products. Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotham, Foundry, Apollo.
That's right, yes.
Interesting.
So they've all got very cool names.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, their marketing department or whatever, branding, has
brilliant.
nailed it.
Brilliant. So I'm going to be talking about just the clients that have come on in the last 6 months.
Okay.
So because we talked about this 6 months ago.
Yeah. Cool.
So this one's the coolest one. Scuderia Ferrari.
Oh.
For those of you who don't know, the Ferrari Formula 1 team is
Yeah.
called Scuderia Ferrari.
Yeah.
So Palantir's Foundry platform is used as a central piece for organizing and collaborating all of the different sources of data.
Huh.
So some of the examples, obviously, sector times, tire conditions and pressure, KERS use, DRS use, so like their kinetic energy response, their wing going down, when it's activated, how early braking into corners is, how early acceleration out of corners, the aerodynamics of load of the car. So there's, in a season, there is 1.5 trillion points of data
throughout the season.
And Palantir is able to take that and organize it.
Wow.
And the whole idea is it can run scenarios and help team managers with making decisions in minutes or seconds, depending on what's needed.
Yeah.
So yeah, one thing that's really cool is it's able to provide that data for the end user in the specific way the end user needs it in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's all of those things.
Wow.
And it's a really cool partnership.
That's sick.
Next partnership is this one I don't know how to say, and I'm gonna butcher it. It's a French company. I should have looked it up, but don't worry. So Faurecia, which is a French automotive parts manufacturer.
Faurecia.
So
Faurecia.
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 Faurecia. Except it's not Italian, it's French. So they make vehicle interiors and emissions control technology.
Okay.
And apparently they're the 9th largest automotive parts manufacturer in the world.
Largest automotive parts manufacturer. Okay.
Yeah, so pretty cool. So Palantir has entered into a 6-year contract to build Foundry on top of Faurecia's current IT portfolio. And that'll help with raw material consumption, R&D competitiveness, improving purchasing inputs, and tracking and measuring CO2 neutrality efforts.
They might become number 8 soon.
They might.
With all that optimization.
All that optimization, indeed.
Incredible.
BP, they've extended their contract. So February, BP extended their contract.
Sick.
They're going for another 5 years, and they're assisting BP's digital transformation.
Oh, yeah.
And they've already helped with operations management, asset allocation, strategic planning, and procurement.
That's cool.
So, yeah, the specific way that Palantir has been doing it in the last year has been optimizing wind farms, building electric charging networks, solar generation, and rolling out all of their environmental, sustainable government stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Pretty cool.
That's cool.
Next up, we've got Rio Tinto.
Rio Tinto.
So, they've signed on for multi-year use. So most of these say how many years. This one just says multi-year.
Okay.
So more than 2, probably more than 3. Who knows?
Okay.
And their whole idea here was to create a single source of truth for operational and transactional data.
Right.
The next new client is the Electric Grid California, the Pacific Gas and Electric Company.
Okay.
So that's going to be managed by Foundry to inform asset risk and investigate outages.
That's cool because they've had some problems there. Hey.
Yeah. Well, it's mostly been Texas, but that'll be the California grid that they're doing.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty cool. Fujitsu. This is the first Japanese client, and it's a 1-year, $8 million contract.
Nice.
The next one is 3M, which is a conglomerate that does a bunch of things from healthcare to personal protective equipment.
Yeah. And
they'll be using Foundry, and they make 10,000 different products.
Yeah,
so
I believe it.
Pretty cool. So yeah, you've probably seen the red 3M
it's
logo.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is funny. I only included this bit because of the name. 3M's vice president, Brig Knott, said in an increasingly complex world, the success of our business depends on the ability to respond quickly to changing facts on the ground.
Wow.
So that's a response to
Well said.
to Palantir.
Yep.
Thank you.
From him, from Brief.
Oh, sorry. Yep. I thought we were complimenting me, but anyway. Our next one is the UK NHS vaccination rollout.
Okay.
So military specialists used
That's
Palantir
smart.
to create an optimal location for vaccination
That's cool.
within 10 miles of home for the top 4 out of 10 priority groups.
Yeah.
So priorities 1 to 4 were like there were a specific list of factors.
Yep.
So there was old,
Yep.
there was people with immune system
Yes.
diseases, all that kind of thing.
Yep.
So the whole idea was to create the vaccination centers in the optimal locations
Yep.
that served all of those people.
Dang, that's great.
So they used this system to set up 1,500 vaccination centers.
Yep.
With 30,000 NHS workers. NHS is the National Health Service in the UK.
Okay.
And 100,000 volunteers. So yeah, it was a pretty good optimization there.
Yep.
The IBM partnership. This is a big one.
Oh.
So on the 8th of Feb, Palantir partnered with IBM to merge. And this sounds like, from what I can tell, this is an IBM product that Palantir will be making, basically. So they're merging hybrid cloud, artificial intelligence, data processing, and operational technology into a new enterprise offering. So the difference between this and Palantir's current products is how they simplify the cloud aspect of the product, and using IBM's resources to consolidate the data in the cloud services, which is very clever.
Yep.
So the solution is called IBM Cloud Pak for Data.
Okay.
And the offering will be a no/low code for deploying AI applications to process data effectively.
Yeah, cool.
So
That's pretty sick.
that's pretty cool.
It's almost like they're licensing some of the technology or something, but I don't know.
Yeah. And that one's called a partnership rather than
Partnership.
rather than
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Rather than a client.
I see.
But we're on to our last 2 new clients. These are all new clients in the last 6 months, which is really cool. So it's a big bull case for Palantir.
Yeah.
So the next one is the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration.
Yep.
Palantir won the contract to power the drug review and inspections.
Oh.
So this is a 3-year contract worth $44 million.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
That's great.
And the next one, this is a heaps funny name. It's Akin Gump Strauss Hauer and Feld LLP. So this is a legal firm.
Okay.
So I think it's a really big law firm.
Yep.
And they have a product called RegSpot, which will plug into Palantir's Foundry and be a new legal digital services program.
Oh.
So it's pretty cool.
That's great.
So the whole point of this is to allow software-driven solutions to apply these to complex legal and compliance processes.
Oh, wow.
So Tom McCarthy is head of Akin Gump's international trade practice.
Okay.
Akin Gump is the name of the company. Don't laugh.
So unfortunate. Sounds like a skin disease.
It sounded like a little bit of a Forrest Gump thing. I thought it was a joke name, but it's very legit. So he said that the tools help provide an auditable process that promotes consistency, reduces human errors, and serves as a record-keeping tool to demonstrate a company's compliance efforts.
Yep.
So it's cool that they're able to do that in the compliance space.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
That's great.
I'd like to go over the quarter 1 results next.
I'd like you to do that.
That'll be my next segment.
Please do.
Starts to get a little financial, but
Okay.
don't worry, I've got a section called financials as well, so that's where it gets really financial. If you're worried about it not getting financial enough,
Okay, great.
So the quarter 1 year-over-year growth was 49%. So that's the quarterly revenue.
Okay.
So the quarterly revenue went from 229 million to 341 million.
For Q1.
For Q1 versus
2020,
Q1.
2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the US revenue grew by 81%.
Oh.
The total government revenue grew by 76%.
Okay.
And the US government revenue grew by 83%.
Gee.
So there's pretty massive growth there.
Yeah.
There was a 76% increase in duration-adjusted commercial deal value, which meant that there was 76% more value obtained through those existing clients
Oh.
when you adjust it for the duration of the contracts
Right.
and all that kind of thing. So yeah, 76% is a great increase in value.
Yep.
117 million in quarterly operating income, which is up from negative 16 million in the last quarter 1 2020.
Really?
Now that's an adjusted operating margin of 34%. So for the quarter, that's pretty good.
Wow.
And quarter 1 2021 ended with 2.8 billion in remaining deal value, which is up 40% year on year.
In remaining deal value.
So all of the deals that they've done, all of the contracts that they've signed and put in place, currently have 2.8 billion worth left to go.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so they're not billed yet,
Uh-huh.
but that's what's contracted and in place.
Yep.
So that's up 40%, which is great.
Wow.
There's 15 deals that Palantir has that are worth more than 5 million. So they've got they've got a low amount of, like, they don't have that many clients, but it's very enterprise. The average contract duration is 3.7 years, which is pretty good.
Yep.
And revenue per customer has gone from 6.3 million last quarter 1 to 8.1 million.
Wow.
So an increased spend of 29%.
Yeah.
And expected quarter 2 revenue growth is set to be 43%.
Wow.
Or 360 million for the quarter. So that means that once we move into the real financial bit, this is my real financial section.
Okay.
Annual revenue for the last year has been 1.2 billion, and their loss has actually been 1.2 billion. So it's a negative 100% profit margin. But the fact that this quarter has been profitable is pretty cool.
Okay.
So they're
it could be a turning point.
starting to turn around.
Okay.
Also, consistently higher revenue growth. So there's a huge spend on that. They're always signing on new clients, and a profitable quarter 1. In terms of valuation, their current price is $21.81.
Okay.
So the market cap is $40 billion.
Yep.
So that puts the price to revenue ratio at 33.9, which doesn't seem too bad.
Okay. It's hard to know.
And if we take this quarter's earnings of 117 million and times that by 4, it would mean an earnings of 468 million, and a PE ratio of 87, which I don't think is bad for something that's growing at 49% per annum. So, with continued expected revenue growth of over 40%.
Yep.
So I'd like to get a little bit more technical with my analysis now.
Okay.
And by technical, I mean fundamental. So I'm going to be talking about a financial ratio.
Okay.
So this is the first ratio that's a bull case.
Okay.
So I'm going to be talking about their current cash balance to total liabilities.
Okay.
So this ratio shows a company's cash balance in relation to its total liabilities. The lower risk firms have a higher value for the cash balance to total risk. So higher is better. And basically, it's a really good way to show the runway. So Palantir's current cash balance to total liability is 1.72.
Oh, that's good. They've got more than enough cash.
Yeah, so they've got a very significant amount of cash.
Almost double.
Yeah, so I compared that against a couple of competitors. So I compared another software company called Appian, which has
I know this company.
which has 0.96. Atlassian has 0.65.
Yeah, that's more expected.
And Salesforce has 0.48.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're on 1.7 is
that's crazy.
Is really high quality.
Wow.
And our second ratio, our second bull ratio, is the change in cash over current liabilities.
Okay.
So that is, if a company produces a negative cash flow over the year, then that puts a significant strain on the business to meet short-term commitments.
Oh, okay. I see.
So current cash over.
So you're finding the
liability.
difference between the cash at the start and at the end?
Yeah.
Over the current liability?
Yeah. So the idea here, so higher is better. Palantir has 2.21 as that ratio.
Wow.
Appian has 0.57.
Yep.
Atlassian has 0.0015.
Wow.
And Salesforce has 0.11.
Wow.
So they're on 2.2 times change in cash to current liabilities.
Yep.
Now, the reason that both of those ratios are so good is due to them IPOing and having a huge amount of funding cash.
Gotcha.
So that's still a great thing because it means they've got a really long runway to keep growing revenue rapidly.
Yep.
For like a long time before they need to be profitable.
Yes.
Even though they're showing Q1 profits, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they've got a long time where they can make losses,
mm-hmm.
which I think is good in their case because they need to be growing their revenue at that rate.
Yep.
Our first bear ratio is their retained profits over total tangible assets.
Yep.
So higher is better in this scenario. A higher value indicates that a mature company has a good history of profits and usually has a conservative dividend payout kind of thing. So Palantir has a negative 0.8, which just means their retained profits is negative, 0.8 of every $1 in total tangible assets.
Yes.
So
that's because up until this point they haven't really made much profit, right?
Yeah, because they're making those losses.
Gotcha.
So negative 0.81.
So that could turn around.
So and then Appian is negative 0.25.
Okay.
Atlassian is 5.95.
Wow.
Which means that they're making 5x their total tangible assets in retained profits.
Mm-hmm.
And Salesforce is 0.37.
Wow.
So the higher ratios are better.
Atlassian, eh?
Yeah, they're killing it. Killing it on that ratio and not killing it on the other ratio.
Yeah.
But yes, all good. Next thing I'm going to talk about is Cathie Wood.
It's
Cathie
the classic
Wood. Cathie Wood.
She would.
She would. She always gets
a mention.
If you can, would you like to? What do you think are our 3 favorite things on the HQLA podcast, Nathan?
Arc, Cathie Wood.
Yeah, Arc. Yeah.
Chamath Palahapatitis.
Yeah.
And
we all know what the third one is.
Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla. Tesla and Elon Musk. Yeah. Excellent. Very good. You passed the test.
Perfect. Thank you.
So ARK-K is ARK's innovation ETF. So they hold 22.4 million shares at a market value of $494 million.
Yep.
ARK-W is the next generation internet.
Mm-hmm.
They hold 4.6 million shares at a market value of $102 million.
Wow.
So it's, I believe, the 17th largest holding in ARK-K and the 19th largest in ARK-W.
Sick.
And that's out of 40. So
yep.
There's a reasonable amount of belief from Cathie Wood.
Yep.
So,
sick.
Yeah, the share market, share price movement, it's currently at $21.81, which is up 129% from its IPO price.
Oh, what did?
So,
wow.
So, yeah, it IPO'd at about $9.80 or something.
Small.
So, yeah. Insider ownership, co-founder and CEO Alex Karp. He owns 1.1 billion of the company stock, which is 1.92% of the company.
Yep.
Co-founder and chairman Peter Thiel owns 3 billion of the company.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot Peter Thiel was involved here.
Yeah. And so he's a bit of a prominent figure.
Yeah.
And he owns 7.3%.
Wow.
And the main bull case here is that Alex Karp sounds exactly like Tony Stark when he talks.
No way.
Yeah. He sounds very similar.
Wow.
So yeah, it's that
okay.
It's that eccentric
that paired with all the product names and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Man, what an epic company.
What a very good company. So
Didn't
I
need
really
those
like
ratios. I don't know what the point of the
ratios.
ratios was.
Don't worry about the ratios. Yeah, we'll cut that bit out. Don't need to worry about that. So yeah, I like it. I'm bullish on it.
Yeah, I'm more bullish on it now. If that makes you feel any better, I'm a lot more bullish on it now.
You've improved
this segment.
Yes, improved the segment.
You've improved my knowledge.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I really like it. It's I think it's my 4th largest holding.
Oh.
So yeah.
What's above that?
I think the Trade Desk, Square, and Tesla.
Tesla. Okay.
So yeah.
That's it. So Bill Ackman is a little bit of a household name. Maybe he's not a household name, but if you're interested in finance or anything like that, it's a name that comes up. You've heard of him before?
I've heard of him before.
Perfect. And some of you listening on the podcast may have also heard of him. So basically, I wasn't going to do a segment on Bill Ackman, and I wasn't going to do a segment on his hedge fund. But what I wanted to do a segment on is a SPAC that he is bringing to the market. And I realized that I need to kind of go back to the start to explain why the SPAC's cool.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So we're going to go from the top. So, Bill Ackman. So let's go from the top. So basically, he actually studied a Bachelor of Arts.
We love a good founder story. Here we go. Going back to the uni days.
He studied a Bachelor of Arts,
Yeah.
majoring in social studies at Harvard College, which is a little bit random.
Harvard is one of the good ones, though.
It is, but
I've heard of that one before.
Bachelor of Arts, like, I don't know, so random. Anyway, but so then he went on a few years later to then do his MBA at Harvard Business.
Okay, yeah.
So that's cool, made up for it there, I suppose. And so in regards to his personal life,
I just want to say one thing really quick.
Okay.
There's a book called Everything They Teach You at Harvard.
Yeah.
And there's a book called Everything They Don't Teach You in Harvard. And if you read both of those books, you will have the sum of all human knowledge. If you think about it, you know.
True.
Anyway, sorry for ruining your segment.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so
It was relevant.
he was married to a lady named Karen Herskovich.
Okay.
And they had 3 kids. And that was in 1994. And then 2016, which is kind of recently, like 5 years ago,
Yep.
they got divorced.
Okay.
And this is where the first little interesting fact comes out.
All right.
2 years later, he then became engaged to a lady named Neri Oxman. Now, other than her having an interesting name, there's nothing particularly interesting about that fact, other than she previously dated Brad Pitt.
Ah.
And
That's a great connection.
some sources will even say that their relationship started whilst she was dating Brad Pitt.
Wow. Controversy.
Yes. Controversy, I think you mean.
Yeah. No, I meant controversy.
How controversial. So then a year later they got married and they had another kid. So simple math would tell me he has 4 kids.
Okay.
And so...
What does advanced math tell you? Sorry, I'm derailing it. It's very important. Oh, I'm glad I had those sunnies on.
Yes. Okay. So then so his career and the hedge fund that he runs are virtually one and the same. So I thought I'll just talk about his career now, because it basically starts with one additional element and then it's all basically the hedge fund. So he starts his career in 1992, which is the year that he graduates his MBA. And him and a fellow Harvard graduate start a small fund called Gotham Partners, which is interesting because it's the same name as the first product you mentioned from Palantir.
Gotham.
Not related at all.
Okay, cool.
Just another cool name. And so in 2002, or by 2002, which is 10 years later, they had $500 million dollars worth of assets under management. This is in US dollars. And so in the same year is the first key moment in his career. There's a few key elements of his career that make him famous.
Yeah.
Shorting certain things, coming in and kind of taking over companies. And I'll just mention a few of these. He has somewhat of a controversial way of, or method of acting, I think.
Yeah.
And so the first company that he had beef with is this company called Municipal Bond Insurance Association. He has a bit of a history of beef with different companies and shorting certain companies and coming in and taking over boards. And so there's a few highlight moments from his career. So some of them include a company called Municipal Bond Insurance Association, MBIA. And so right around the Great Housing Crisis or whatever in 2008 or whatever.
Whatever that was, yeah.
He basically saw this company, which is a financial services company, and their AAA ratings. He was saying, well, these really are not AAA rating assets, and so he was going to the authorities and saying, like, this isn't this really shouldn't be allowed. Like, there's a problem here. No one was listening to him. He was going directly to the company, and so his solution was he ended up just shorting that stock. He basically bet against the stock right at the height of the crisis.
So he bet against municipal,
correct,
whatever.
Correct, because he's saying the way they're operating, like, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so as he expected, they completely crashed that stock.
Do you want to do a quick explanation on what shorting is?
I don't know. What is it?
Oh, well, all right. So shorting is you sell borrowed stock.
Yeah.
When at the start date.
Okay.
And then you buy it back at a later date.
Yeah.
For hopefully a lower price.
Yeah.
And then you return the stock
to who
you
person.
Borrowed it from.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
you sell it first
Uh-huh.
at high price because you think that it's going to go down in value. You borrow it,
Yep.
then you sell it, and then you wait for a later date.
Yep.
You buy it back.
Yep.
Then you return the stock.
Yep.
And you make a spread.
Okay, and you're relying on it going down. Okay,
Yes,
that totally
yep.
makes sense. And so he made like significant profit, and then that's where there's this book called Confidence Game, which was published in 2010, which is all about that situation. There's a full book on it, which is kind of cool. I haven't read it or anything. I'm not sure if it's good. So then in 2005, Wendy's, the I don't know, like food company.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do. I don't know what they
Hot
do.
dogs.
Is it hot dogs, that kind of thing?
I
hot
feel like
dogs,
it's
maybe
hot dogs
burgers
and
stuff?
ice creams or something.
Ice creams,
I don't know.
yeah. No, I think that's right. Hot dogs,
maybe
ice
I'm
creams.
wrong.
So he goes in, Pershing Capital goes in and buys significant share in...
And Pershing Capital is the name of his
Sorry,
hedge
yeah.
fund. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yes, that's right. So they go in and they buy significant share in Wendy's International, which is the company. Basically, Wendy's International also owns another company called Tim Hortons.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Tim Hortons?
Yeah, but I'm not sure what they do.
So Tim Hortons, I think mainly Canadian franchise, and they basically are like coffee and donuts.
Yeah, okay.
Classic like American sort of stuff.
Classic Americans.
In Canada. And so his shtick was like, well, we need to sell this off. I don't know the reasoning behind it, and so he basically pressured the board, and they spun off the full chain of Tim Hortons in an IPO in 2006, which is just a year later after he bought into Wendy's. And they raised $670 million from that sale. And then Bill Ackman, or Pershing Capital, sold their shares for a big profit. And then the stock, Wendy's stocks, totally tanked.
Classic. He got him good.
And so, yeah, a little bit of controversy around that one.
So, yeah, obviously, yeah. He's purposely trying to get rid of it. And,
yes.
yeah, not really in good faith making an IPO.
Yeah, it kind of looks like he comes in, just sells an asset, makes a bunch of money, leaves, and then everyone's sort of left picking up the pieces going, hey, now we've got something that is worth less than it was.
Yeah.
So in 2007, about a year later, Target Corporation, the big retail chain, they bought in 10% stake in that company, and with the intention of getting 5 board seats. And there was apparently a big battle to try and get these seats, and he actually lost that battle and couldn't get a seat on the board. And so, sold his stake in the company.
Okay.
And so I thought that's interesting. That's an example of him failing. So then in 2009, so 2 years later, his next venture was a company called General Growth Properties Incorporated. And so they were at the time one of the largest shopping center operators and owners in the US.
Yep.
And through a bunch of bad debt situations and stuff like that, they basically were right on bankruptcy. And so Pershing Capital swooped in with a $60 million investment with a few other firms and saved General Growth Properties from bankruptcy. And that's apparently one of his best investments. It was a 26x investment. His net return when they sold, I think it was 5 years later, was $1.6 billion from a $60 million investment. So that's good.
Yeah, that's great. That's what private equity's there for.
Exactly. Yeah. In 2011, a company called Borders Group. Do you remember Borders Group?
Yeah, Borders, the bookseller.
Yeah, books.
Yeah.
So they bought over a couple of years. They bought a 38% stake in Borders.
Yep.
And Borders actually ended up going bankrupt. They lost $300 million from that.
Yeah.
So
definitely not around anymore.
No, I haven't seen them for a while. But I do remember them as a kid.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Hasn't been that long. So then in 2011, again, Pershing Capital purchased a 15% stake in a company called Canadian Pacific Railway, CP for short. So there's a bunch of changes in the management structure, and so they removed the CEO, put in a whole bunch of different. They changed the board and stuff like that. Mainly just managerial changes, not necessarily business things, products, or anything like that. And the share price rose from over 5 years again, from 2011 to 2016, from $49 to $220. And so they sold their 7% stake, which is about half of their original investment, for $1.45 billion. Again, a pretty decent profit.
Yeah, cool.
Two more. In 2012...
So they were able... Hang on, go back to that one. They were able to... They only had a 7% stake, but they were able to...
They had a 15% stake.
Oh, they had a 15% stake.
Yeah.
But they were able to... So...
Yes, 15% stake. Are you going to say that he was...
How were they able to change all the management with a 15% stake?
That's right. I think in this particular situation, he's not necessarily credited for making the changes.
Yeah, okay.
I think he just
happened to also
he was
be
a part of
the
whole situation.
Everyone has an influence on the board. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Where it might not have actually been official, he may have had some influence.
Yeah.
In 2012, a company called Herbalife, which it still exists today.
Yes.
And the CEO and founder is a guy named Mark Hughes. Is it this company? I think it's this company. And so basically, Bill argued that it had essentially zero value because it was just a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And so he again entered in a $1 billion short against this company, which is huge.
Yes.
And then he's even cited on TV in like a live argument with this guy named Bill Ackman.
Carl?
What did I say?
What? You said Bill.
Oh, sorry, Carl.
Yeah. Yes. This is
How'd
what
you
I was,
know that?
This is what I was thinking of before.
Oh, wait.
It was actually, I knew the name, and I saw the name here.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bill
I know this
Ackman. So
Carl.
he's. Oh, did I say Bill again? Sorry. Carl Ichan. There's like a TV interview, and they're like on some live TV show, and they're having this big argument.
Yeah.
About
so
the
there's
reasons.
multiple CNBC clips of them arguing as well. It's heaps funny.
Okay.
I've watched a few of them.
Perfect. So you can get on there and
And
have
now
a
they
look.
refuse to go on together.
Oh,
So now they're on separate
there you go.
segments as well.
That's funny. And so again, in this particular situation, HLF or Herbalife plunged 60%, but not before almost completely rebounding. And in 2018, exited his short position with really not much of a profit to walk away from. Then apparently there's a Netflix documentary about this whole situation called Betting on Zero. Have you heard of it?
I haven't heard of it. No.
No, neither. I haven't heard of it either. And apparently has a 7.2 rating on IMDb.
Well, that's a good rating.
Is it?
Yeah, 7.2.
Yeah, it's all right.
9.2 is the highest rating on IMDb.
Really?
The Godfather.
Okay.
So
True.
7.2 is only 2 off that.
Yes, that's right. And so the last company in 2016 was a company called Valiant Pharmaceuticals, which still exists again, although under a name change to Bosch Health.
Bosch Health. Okay.
Yep. And it is a Canadian pharma company. I don't know what drugs they manufactured or whatever, but basically there was a bunch of SEC investigation into the company, into the way they were operating and stuff like that, and so the stock price just took a massive plummet because of that. Kind of like what we were talking before. In sort of any investigation is going to lead to that.
Yeah.
It's just uncertainty. And so then in 2016, I assume Bill saw like a ripe opportunity here. And so they took a stake in the company. But unfortunately, it really didn't recover. And so they took a really big loss at the end of 2016, almost $3 billion
cool.
loss, which was seems pretty substantial.
Yeah.
I don't know what the net effect of all of that is, but there's certainly been... I was looking at his results, like of his hedge fund over the last few years. Yeah. It seems to so early on, he gets years where he's up 40% and he's up stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, 2016, I think he was like down 16%. And then the year after that, he's like up 4%.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's interesting to see what his most recent performance has been like. It doesn't look super impressive.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
So is Pershing Square... Did you say it's a hedge fund or did you say it's a investment?
No,
firm?
there's two. Let me come to that in just a second.
Okay, all right.
I'll explain. There's two organizations. So just a little bit more interesting stuff about Bill, and then I'll go into the hedge fund itself. All right, so a little bit of interesting stuff to mix it up here. So he owns Gulfstream jet, which is kind of cool. He funded and endorsed Michael Bloomberg's 2020 presidential nomination.
Oh.
which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
His net worth is...
I would have assumed that was all Mr. Bloomberg himself.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he probably didn't 100% fund it, but he contributed.
Yeah, true, yeah.
His net worth is estimated to be over $1 billion, which is awesome. And this is a really interesting thing. So that he did this charity lunch in 2019. And so it was in partnership with this organization called the David Lynch Foundation. Sorry. And it's for, it's basically this foundation is to support those who have had PTSD of some, from some situation. Okay. And so the guy who won it is a guy named Andrew Wilkinson, who you may or may not have ever heard of.
I don't know.
Okay, perfect.
Who's Andrew Wilkinson?
And so he won this charity lunch, which is basically you can have a 1 to 2 hour lunch with Bill, and Bill will pay for the lunch, and it was a bidding auction to win that.
Yeah.
This guy named Andrew Wilkinson, who's a young Canadian, I think he was in his early 30s or maybe even late 20s. He won it a couple of years ago, and his bid was $57,000 US dollars. And he's the founder of a holding company called Tiny. And during the lunch, it actually, subsequent events led to Bill investing in one of his companies, one of Andrew Wilkinson's companies, called WeCommerce, which is basically a bunch of Shopify plugins and stuff like that, like a bunch of them. And they IPO'd that business, WeCommerce, on the Canadian exchange for $45 million.
I think I've heard of this guy before. Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Because he's been on My First Million.
Yeah.
And so he's friends with one of the guys on a podcast that we listen to called My First Million.
Yeah.
And he has, I think, a really awesome outlook on investing and stuff like that. He's all about, meeting new people and trying to help people and find situations that are going to be profitable, but not just for him, but for everybody and stuff like that. So
yeah,
really cool dude. And so cool that he got a bit of a jump start with this little investment. Okay, a few other little interesting quick facts. He doesn't eat dairy. He doesn't drink coffee. He joined Twitter in 2017.
Sounds like you.
Yes, it's true. he joined Twitter in 2017, which is remarked to be relatively late to get onto that bandwagon.
Hey, you were pretty late to Twitter as well.
It's true.
Confirmation bias right here. I am the best. Yeah.
And just for reference, his fund, Pershing Capital, is not even in the top 10 hedge funds in the world. I do have a quick list here. BlackRock is the top fund with $100 billion in assets.
Is BlackRock a hedge fund though?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Okay. I see what you're saying. So BlackRock it's called BlackRock Financial blah 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 blah, and then within that conglomerate they have an internal hedge fund, which is called BlackRock Advisory.
Okay.
And like Bridgewater Associates with Ray Dalio is kind of famous.
Yeah.
150 billion.
Yeah.
And Citadel is kind of famous recently with the whole
for the
GameStop thing, and that's 30 billion. And so Pershing Square Holdings is the holding company that has all of the assets that they own, and which includes this SPAC that I'm about to mention.
Yep.
And then Pershing Square Capital Management is the financial advisory company that advises on all of the sponsorships that they do for the SPACs that they have in place at the moment, and blah, 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 other stuff. So the hedge fund has over 12 billion in assets, which I guess it's kind of like around half of Citadel, which is the 10th largest in the world. So it's not huge, but I guess 12 billion is still a lot. Their portfolio looked like companies in 2020 such as... I see. Little R8 going past.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. Companies such as... It seems kind of value kind of stocks. It's like Lowe's, which is like Bunnings, but in America. Howard Hughes Corporation, which I think is just... actually, that's a good question. I need to look into that. It's a really big conglomerate.
Okay.
There's a guy named Howard Hughes, which looks like a really cool dude. It's an really old company. Hilton Worldwide, obviously, hotel chain. Restaurant Brands International, which is Burger King, Tim Hortons, Popeyes, Chipotle, Starbucks, Berkshire Hathaway, which they don't own anymore, but they did, and the SPAC that I'd like to mention, which is called Pershing Square Tontine Holdings Incorporated.
Yeah.
So Pershing Square Tontine Holdings came to my attention mainly because of the company that they had targeted for their acquisition, which was a company called Universal Music Group, which is obviously pretty famous. Like, most people have heard of Universal Music before, right?
Yeah.
And Universal Music is owned by a company. It's like 52% currently owned by a company. Where did I write that down here? Vivendi. So it's a company called Vivendi that owns like 52% currently of Universal Music Group, or UMG. And so the agreement was to buy 10% of Universal Music Group from this company called Vivendi.
Okay, cool.
So, Tontine, I wasn't sure what that meant. I thought it was like a term that he'd just sort of come up with, but I realized that it's got some sort of inherent meaning. And so back in the 1700s and the 1800s, apparently it was basically when they would get a whole bunch of individuals to pool their money together into some form of fund or whatever. Or in this situation, it was for to build. I saw some examples of building property and stuff like that. And there's incentives. Basically, there's some sort of incentive in place for long-term investment. And so in this situation back in the 1800s, the incentive was that as people died, their dividends that should have been paid to them are now redistributed towards those who are still surviving members.
Right, okay.
And so as you get older and older and older and people die, you get more and more and more dividends until you're literally the last person receiving the full dividend.
Yeah, okay.
And then at which point, when you die, apparently the government steps in and I don't know. There's some sort of legal process that ends it. So apparently it's a term that was used mainly in the 1800s, and then it kind of went out of circulation in the 1900s. And so he's incorporated this term into his SPAC, and I'll try and explain how he's put that incentive for the long-term investment in a second. So it was incorporated in 2020, which is about a year ago.
Yeah.
And their office is based in New Jersey. And so Pershing Square Capital Management is the sponsor advisor. So they are the ones that are kind of like getting everybody together. They're getting all of the sponsors together, the private companies or hedge funds or whatever who are going to buy into this SPAC deal privately. And then Pershing Square Holdings, their holdings company, is one of those sponsors that has contributed money towards the deal. And obviously this is all led by Bill. And so there's $5 billion in committed capital from these private companies or private organizations for this particular deal. And their target was a company that's valued at $10 billion or greater. Obviously, Universal Music, they're only acquiring 10% of it, but it was the value of the actual company that they're that's related to.
Right, okay, so it's not the company, it's not the value of the stake in the company.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I guess it's just more inferring the size of the company that they want to acquire a percentage of.
Yeah.
Okay, so the target requirements... the target requirements...
2.5 hour episode. We've both got another segment.
The target requirements for the business that they were going to acquire...
So $10 billion.
$10 billion size or greater. And the target requirements were simple and predictable free cash flows, large barriers of entry, high returns on capital, limited exposure to risk, strong balance sheet, and excellent management. I feel like they're all just like things that you'd obviously want in every company.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing particularly outstanding there that I can see. Yeah,
exactly. So for the last, I don't know, couple of months, it's been announced that their acquisition target was Universal Music Group. I explained that Vivendi owned and shareholders owned more than 50%, and they were going to purchase 10% from them. Another company called Tencent Music Entertainment, which Tencent, I assume...
Yeah. Do you know what Tencent is?
I know what Tencent is, so I assume this is an offshoot of the main company.
Yeah.
They own 20% of it, and a couple of other companies make up the difference. So when this IPO'd, back in 2020. The IPO price was $20. And it's broken down into 3 elements. So for $20, this is the 3 elements that you get. This is the tontine concept coming into play here.
The tontine.
So obviously you get UMG shares, or Universal Music shares.
Yes, yeah.
And of your $20, you get of your $20, they negotiated an enterprise price of $14.50 per share. So for your $20, you're going to get 1 share, which is worth $14.50.
Yeah.
And just recently, Goldman Sachs valued Universal Music at $18.13.
Right.
So you can see there already you're arbitraging a profit of 25% because you're getting 1 share for $14.50.
Yeah.
But the current market valuation is $18.13. So
Should we just quickly go over what arbitrage is?
Oh,
I think
yes.
that's the first time we've talked about arbitrage.
True. Okay. So arbitrage is basically when you buy something, or if you buy an asset or something in one market, and basically without risk can then go and resell at a higher price. I guess maybe classically it might be buying something in one country and selling it in another country's market. You can't do that so much nowadays with technology.
Yeah.
But people and companies are always looking for arbitrage opportunities because the key is that there's no risk involved. You can see an opportunity to buy and sell and make a profit.
Yeah, so like a really good example that some people used to do that used to be a genuine arbitrage opportunity.
Yep.
Used to be Harley Davidsons.
Oh.
Because you could buy them in the US for 10,000 USD or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at the time where it was like dollar for dollar.
Yep.
You know, so basically 10,000 AUD.
Yep.
You could import it for $5,000.
Yeah.
And then you could sell it for $30,000.
Okay, gotcha.
So like the whole purpose there was they made a huge spread, and that was their arbitrage spread. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so you get one. So let's say you just buy 1 share at IPO for $20. You get 1 share of Universal Music Group for the value of $14.50. And then you get $5.50, your remaining of the $20, continues on ownership in this company that they're terming RemainCo, which is basically the second deal that will make up the completion of this SPAC. I've never heard of this before, and it's a
2-part. It's like a 2-part split.
It's a 2-part SPAC, and so there's a first deal, second deal. The second deal has not been announced at all.
Okay.
And so, $5.50 or 28% of your original purchase price of the $20, 28% of it goes towards the second acquisition target. And so left over currently is $2.9 billion in cash for the second deal. Which is $1.5 billion in current PSTH, which is the name of the SPAC investors. Yep. And Pershing Square has the option to buy an additional $1.4 billion of that stock. Not the obligation, just the option. Okay, so you get UMG share, you get $5.50 worth of value in the second SPAC deal. And the third thing is you also get a warrant.
Warrant.
Yeah. So he's also doing a third, or not a third SPAC. That first one has 1 SPAC with 2 elements. He's doing a second SPAC, Bill Ackman. And this is sometime in the next 5 years. You get a warrant that allows you the purchase of this new SPAC, which is called Spark. And it's called SPAC Holdings. And you get the opportunity, but again, not the obligation, to purchase 1 share for $20 per share. And it can be exercised, this is the key here, it can be exercised after the agreement's been announced for the acquisition target and after the stock price has reached over $24.
Right.
You get the opportunity to buy for $20.
Okay, cool.
Which again, it's an arbitrage of $4.
Yeah.
And so with that particular SPAC, there is somewhere between $6 to $10 billion worth of capital on the table able to be used to acquire or merge with the target. $5.6 billion is if all of the current shareholders exercise their warrant.
Yeah.
And Pershing Capital has a minimum investment of $1 billion up to $5 billion. So you put that together, you get somewhere between $6 and $10 billion towards this second SPAC.
Yeah.
And that has to be completed within 5 years.
This is a very confusing deal. So, like,
I
I've
know,
never heard of.
I know.
I can remember Chamath saying something specific about how you can never do more than one deal based off one SPAC.
Right.
So
Yes.
this is like a direct contradiction to like
So
something that I've heard before. So it's a very interesting.
When I was reading their, might have been 10K or whatever it's called. It's a statement.
So one of the SEC forms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was reading it, it said specifically that the second deal has to be within X amount of time because it's technically not a SPAC anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, as you're saying, there is some sort of, I think he's trying to basically throw the loophole here.
Yeah.
Where he can make a second acquisition, but it's not technically still a SPAC or something. But I agree, it is really confusing. And if you go on and watch all of his interviews at the moment, this is the first thing they start talking about. They're like, I was watching an interview recently, and let me finish this, and I'll
tell me about the interview.
Yes. And so that second SPAC within the next 5 years will find like the next company to invest in. And I mean, I watched like a couple of YouTube videos, and one or two people mentioned Stripe, which would be so cool.
Stripe is very cool.
So that's an interesting thing to consider. So unfortunately, the SEC came out in the last week and said that the deal between UMG and the SPAC didn't meet the SPAC rules, as you kind of just mentioned.
Yes. Okay.
And they didn't specify why or anything because it wasn't a public statement. It was just a private notification to the SPAC, and so the board decided to not continue with that particular deal with UMG and dropped the acquisition.
Okay. All right.
So it's basically
it's not going to be universal.
Now
it's
it's completely a blank check company.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. So so then I watched an interview with Bill, which was this only really happened like 2 or 3 days ago. I watched an interview with him, and he was saying a lot of what I mentioned, and then he said that basically they're looking for a new combination target still. Yeah. Okay. And they have 18 months to find that company and to make that merger happen.
Right.
So it's an interesting company. As I know, it's really confusing. There's a lot of elements to it, but it's really different, and I think it's really interesting.
Cool.
And if it takes owning random companies to then get a cheap price on like Stripe, because as soon as like,
true. Yeah.
Can you imagine if they announce that they're going to acquire Stripe?
So Stripe is the payments. It's a plugin that goes into websites.
Yeah.
And it's like a credit card. It takes your credit card info.
Yeah.
And it's a really good interface that can go into like any website.
Yeah.
Or like provides multiple payment methods for people.
Yeah.
And it's just like an easy to use, and heaps of developers take it on, use that with their websites.
It's the prime backend. Processing tool for Shopify stores, which make up X percentage of stores on in the internet, which would be a lot. And then I think, from what I can tell, most good user experiences is because you're using Stripe.
Yeah.
At the back end, I used one recently. I purchased like some cologne on like Chemist Warehouse, and I don't know what their back end was, but it was
some cologne.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was just cheap. I just bought it. It was so clunky, and I was like, "Dang, this is what it used to be like."
Yeah.
It was. I do have to like go to this weird thing comes up on the screen, which looks like it's from the 90s, and like it was just so ugly. And I was like, "Oh, true."
Yeah.
It had like Combank on it. I don't know.
Stripe, take that Combank.
Sorry.
It's fine. I'm not offended.
You don't like that. It's fine.
I don't. Yeah.
And so it's a cool company. Stripe is cool because
it lets you get
really
ready
simple
for your dates.
It's really simple.
With cologne.
And the code that they made is apparently genius. And it's like, what? It's like a few lines of code, and you just put it in any website and it works, apparently. I don't know.
Yeah.
Beyond our knowledge. So it's a cool company. I own a little bit. And it's
cool. So you got some.
Yeah.
You got some of the blank check.
Oh, I should mention, I haven't talked about price much at all. But because it's really...
Mention the price.
No. Yes. So it IPO'd at $20.
Yeah.
Current price is like $20.15 or something.
Okay.
But it got all the way up to $32.
All right.
So very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes.
A bull for Nathan.
Yeah. Well, not as strong as yours.
Not as strong as
mine. Not as big a bull.
Okay.
Small bull.
Small bull.
Just small bull.
Let's go, baby. So, I'm going to be talking about a very cool company.
Okay.
And I'm not even talking about the company, but I'll talk about the company. And by that, what
So
I mean
convoluted.
what I mean is I'm going to be talking about the things that are listed on the company. But before I talk about that, I'm going to give a very brief summary.
Okay.
So I'm going to be talking about Microacquire.
Yep.
This is a really cool platform. It was actually started in 2020, so it's less than a year old.
Crazy.
And it's currently still in seed funding stage.
Really? The business itself?
Yeah, so
that's cool.
Something we should maybe just brush over. Seed is a Silicon Valley term, which means that it's very brand new.
Mm-hmm.
It's only taken on a couple of $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's very fresh idea.
Yep.
And it's usually angel funders will do the seed round, and VC funders will do what's called Series A, Series B, Series C, and then VCs in combination with, say, other actual investment banks or just VCs will then take it to the point where it is IPOing or launching. And the great part about that is the seed investors who are putting up $10,000 or $20,000 or $100,000 are then, the valuation grows. The Series A, people are putting up $1 million to get in at the same price sort of thing. So, so anyway, it's in seed funding stage. They've just raised $2.8 million.
Okay.
And they are aiming to be their whole little shtick. I'm trying to avoid using that word, but I don't know what their bio, their company like.
It's such a good throwaway word. Like this word works for everything.
I don't know what to say.
I don't know what it means.
Their little
their motto.
Their motto. They're aiming to be the most founder-friendly startup acquisition marketplace.
Ah, cool.
So, Naval is an investor, which is something that I'm very, very bullish on.
Mm-hmm.
And they've helped over 300 startups get acquired so far. They've currently got 1,120 startups listed on the platform.
Whoa.
And I'll start with the most expensive one.
Okay, do it.
So the most expensive one is an asking price of $30 million.
Okay.
And I'll skip over the guessing part because Nathan takes too long when he guesses.
Continue.
And
I still get it wrong.
It's a big pet peeve.
I asked too many questions.
Yeah. They're a.
I can probably get it now.
This one's 30. All right, we'll do the next one. We'll guess. This one I'll just jump through.
Is this a SaaS business?
So this is a SaaS business. So software as a service.
I see.
And they're asking $30 million, and this is a really ridiculous valuation.
So I assume that annual profit's like 150 grand, right?
You would assume correctly. But their annual recurring revenue, which is ARR, is $720,000.
Okay. Whoa.
They're definitely overvaluing their own business.
What's that multiple? It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I actually didn't do multiples. I should have done that.
Sure, it doesn't matter.
That would have been good. But anyway, that doesn't matter. So yeah,
you can do it. That's a good little thing to do at home.
Yeah, little fun little fact. I'll calculate it and put it here. Yeah, but not in Spotify or Apple Podcasts because you won't be able to hear that.
True. Comment. You can comment on Apple Podcasts.
Write us a review, 5-star review, if you know the. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube. So yeah, anyway, it's really funny. It's a SaaS business that helps coaches improve athlete performance.
Okay.
So yeah, they're
there's a big market for it, I suppose.
They're partnering with the top coaches and organizations, and yeah, they're trying to get into the NBA according to their little bio, their little bio thing. I'll put up the little bios and info here.
Okay.
And yeah, it's so it's enterprise.
So that's like their
next
growth point is getting into the NBA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
which is why it's so highly valued, because it would be worth so much at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm going to I think also it seems like they're just putting up this wild valuation and because that's $30 million is the highest valuation on the platform, and the next highest is 15. Okay. So and there's 1,200 companies on there. So
they just put it up so that when you search from highest to lowest, they come up first.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe they just want marketing. Like maybe they just want to move up
working.
There. So 300,000 in TTM revenue, which means trailing 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And ARR is annual recurring revenue. I think I mentioned that one.
Yep.
All right, so now we're going to go for the next company.
Okay.
So this one, this was the Actually, no. This is not going to work for a guessing game because I went for the lowest profit store, and it's an e-commerce store.
Okay.
And so this one's making negative $700,000. And they're trying to sell it.
What?
They've got an annual recurring revenue of $12 million.
Whoa.
And their asking price is $3 million. Their number of customers is...
revenue 12, asking 3. What an interesting situation.
But loss of 700,000.
Yeah, but why?
So, well, that's the thing. Let's move down a little further into the thing. So
maybe we should buy this.
This one's interesting. So it's a I haven't quite, it's a little confusing what they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
But it's about providing a service for military, first responders, law enforcement.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure. It's like it seems to be so what it says here, lifestyle, outdoor, tactical merchandise. So I don't know if they're selling police uniforms or tactical
it's another one of those markets. I talked about that when I talked about those online stores as well.
Yeah.
They go well. So they've... sorry, I was about to say...
No, take over. You go. No, I like it.
So they've got a gross margin of 30%.
Yes.
So obviously they're just spending all of their money on advertising.
Yeah, so I also looked up some terms for this one.
Okay.
They've got an AOV of $157. That means an average order value.
Let me guess this next one.
Guess the next one. Go.
LCV. What's the first word?
Lifetime.
Lifetime customer value.
Yep, that's right. So a lifetime customer value of $500 to $600, which is pretty good, but I don't know, that's actually a provable metric. And
you don't know if it is.
I don't know if they have proved that metric. It seems like anyone could write lifetime customer value of 600.
Yeah.
But average order value seems like a real usable metric.
It
so
does.
That's good.
Yep.
$157. And they've written proven model with growth year on year. Which, or year over year is the technical term. So YOY means year over year.
Yep.
They haven't actually said YOY growth, which means that's not actually a useful... that's not
it just does grow.
Yes. They could literally have written proven model with growth.
Yes.
But yes, anyway. So yeah, not bad. What else? I've covered off those 3.
Perfect.
Here we go. I've gone for the cheapest company.
Okay, great.
So actually I'll tell you the revenue.
Okay,
and you guess what the price is.
Okay.
All right. Annual recurring revenue of you didn't see the price just before.
No.
Okay. Annual recurring revenue of $10.
Oh. What industry are they in?
They are in the mobile app. All right, so this is an Android app which allows users to monitor their stocks, crypto, forex.
Oh, what?
And either
it's going to be still big
on either their mobile device or OS smartwatch.
It's not going to be like ginormous because it's just a guy at home who's made the app.
Yes.
But
by purchasing this company, you'll get 1 mobile app, 3 smartwatch app, 1 custom watch face, 1 website, and a few social media accounts.
Right.
And $10 in TTM revenue.
Yeah.
$5 in revenue last month. $5 in profit last month.
100,000.
They have put this at $350.
$350?
Yeah, that's how much it's listed for.
Why would we not buy that?
Well, I mean, I'm all about it. I'll buy it.
All right.
We'll work that out later. But this is and it also comes up with the founder can enter.
No, don't buy it.
Yeah, it's an Android app. What doesn't mean that doesn't mean it's useless.
No one uses Android.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
There's no market.
There's no Android phones. So they actually put in. They're allowed to put in what their growth opportunity is.
Yep.
So this one's growth opportunity is having in-app purchases, ads, affiliate marketing, and a subscription base.
And an Apple.
And an Apple, yes, and changing it to Apple,
obviously.
Yeah. So, pretty cool.
Very cool.
Here we go. I'll do a guessing game for the next one.
Here we go.
All right. The next one is a food newsletter company.
Okay.
It makes all right, so...
Newsletter as in email newsletter?
Yeah, yeah, I believe so. Newsletter with $550 in TTM revenue and $500 in TTM profit. So they have a cost of $50 apparently.
Okay.
No marketing has been done. All growth has been organic.
Yeah.
What else have they got? 30 orders in the last 12 months. I think you order from the newsletter. They've got affiliate links.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how they make their money.
Oh, so that's what those orders are.
So
okay.
their TTM profit. So it shares meal recipes on a budget.
Okay.
So
So their revenue is from affiliate links, essentially.
Yes. So it's a paid newsletter. The
Okay.
tech stack this product is built on is WordPress and WooCommerce.
Yep.
Their competitors are budgetbytes.com. Growth opportunity. Join relevant groups on social, contribute, and lead people to the newsletter. And they have, where is it? They have 2 paid subscribers on WordPress at $10 per month.
Oh.
They have 3,500 free subscribers on Substack.
3,500.
2,100 members on Reddit. 100 session average monthly website traffic for the last 3 months. And this group has been all organic. So it comes with the social media for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and
Does it say how many followers they have?
Medium. No, but it does say they've got 3,500 free subscribers.
They got 3,500 Substack subscribers.
So that I would assume that,
and they've had 30 purchases using their affiliate link.
yeah, and I would assume that they have, and so yeah, $500.
They've made $550 in the last 12 months.
Yes, and I would assume that their social media following would be 7,000 or 8,000.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'll tell you what I would pay for this.
What would you pay for this?
I would pay, not that I would, but I would value it at, say, so this is what's happening. There's too many things for me to think about.
yeah, see?
There's, okay, I'm just going to throw a number out. I would value it at less than $100,000.
Oh,
but
okay.
at more than $1,000. I would value it at, I would value that at $20,000.
It is $2,500.
$2,500.
Yes.
Okay.
2.5K.
Okay.
All right. We won't guess the next ones for
No,
the time's
it takes
sake.
too long. Sorry.
It also says what the funding method is. It's bootstrapped, so
Okay.
that's cool, obviously. But yeah,
venture.
yes, not venture capital. Here we go. So my last 2 will be worth it because this is cool.
Okay, because it may get better.
We're not going to do a guess.
Okay.
So this second last one, this is Company 5.
Mm-hmm.
This is a profitable custodial NFT marketplace.
Oh yeah.
With 3,500 in TTM revenue and $1,000 in TTM profit using traditional payment methods, so credit card, Apple Pay, Google Pay.
Yeah.
It has between 100 and 1,000 customers.
Yeah.
Annual profit of $1,000.
Yeah.
Asking price is 25K.
Oh.
And it is basically NFTs. So we make it super easy to buy and sell NFTs to users who have no knowledge of the blockchain or NFTs.
Yeah.
Only 3 months in operation.
Is this an app or something? Did you say?
This is
a website.
It's an NFT marketplace, so I think it's a website.
Okay.
Competitors are Nifty Gateway, Super Rate, and Market
Nifty,
Space,
that's a good word.
which I guess is NFT stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's built on React, Firebase, Stripe, IPFS, and Ethereum.
Stripe.
So yeah, pretty cool. Stripe and Ethereum.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's that one.
Okay.
Then I've got another crypto. This is my last one. Another crypto one.
Okay.
But this one is a crypto mining pool.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's for $30,000. They're listing it for.
Right.
And I don't need to hide this anymore. So $30,000.
Yes.
It's a cryptocurrency mining pool, and it's for a crypto called Chia.
Okay.
So this is
I have heard of it.
This is the first Chia pool in Southeast Asia with low fees, secure, high reliability, Chia enthusiasts, whatever. I don't know all the words. It's got 30. They're asking $30,000, and here's what's really funny. So I went and had a little look into Chia. So basically, you can buy this mining pool. It makes $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the appeal there is if you're thinking the value is going to go up, and you have the mining pool for it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you've already got the infrastructure in place, and then you might make your money back in a year if it goes up 30x, you know?
Yep.
So anyway.
So you went and looked at the crypto.
I went and looked at the crypto. So this is heaps funny. Chia is a crypto which is based on the amount of hard disk storage devoted rather than processing power.
Oh, okay.
So instead of being called proof of work like Bitcoin or proof of stake like the modern ones.
Here we go.
It has a time stamping scheme called proof of space.
Proof of
which
space.
is funny. Proof of space.
I was going to guess proof of storage. Proof of space, that's cool.
Proof of space. According to CoinMarketCap, Chia has a market cap of 157 million, and it's ranked 2,566 out of all the cryptos.
Wow.
So yep, that's my segment.
Very good. Which one would you buy? We'll buy that $350.
I want to buy the newsletter one. That's kind of cool. Or not the newsletter one.
The crypto. No, what was it? It was a stock.
The Android app.
Android app.
The stock watching Android app.
OS
$350.
Okay.
Yeah, so like
okay.
operating system,
Yeah.
Android operating system,
Yeah.
smartwatch. Yeah, kind of cool. If you could buy that and then hire a developer for another $350 and say, put this on.
$350. How much do you think these people are?
Well, I'm saying like get
offshore.
one off. Lemon.io or something.
Yes. Okay, so this is going to be so quick.
Here we go. Let's go, baby.
This is funny. So this is car, right?
How long have we been going?
Ages.
Oh, I can't see.
An
hour
hour
and 42. That's our longest episode. And it's not like been fluff either.
No.
So we're actually going to have to go for it. Yeah.
So there's a new car by Hyundai
My favorite
called
company.
the Ioniq 5. Okay? So this will become cool when you start to put photos in because I think it's actually a really interesting looking car. Main reason why I'm talking about it. So main competition is the VW ID4 and the Tesla Model Y, which we're all a bit more familiar with. There's two versions. There's a rear-wheel drive version, which is the base model. And it's got 225 horsepower and 300 miles of range. There it is.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, if you can get a photo with the lights on, it has this really cool pixel theme. And all of the tail lights are like these cool square pixels.
Yeah, okay.
It looks really cool.
Oh,
Here we go.
Yeah, okay.
It looks really sick.
Oh, like LED kind of.
Yeah, and when you put the blinker on, it fills in the squares.
Oh, that's cool.
It looks really cool. I really like it. I think it's this is a company that's really just it's we talked about Audi's EV ages ago.
Yeah.
And the consensus was that they're really just not doing anything interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas this company, although it seems like a boring company, Hyundai,
yeah.
they are really trying to push the envelope with their cars. They're
Yeah.
putting out, Hyundai i30N, which is crazy horsepower and sounds like a rocket. And
they have that big blue van too.
so I think that's OEM.
Sorry.
He's talking about this skid van that we went and watched.
Yeah.
Anyway. And so
We'll put a photo down.
they have an all-drive version, 320 horsepower, so it's additional 100 horsepower. It does 0 to 100 in a little over 5 seconds. It's okay. It's good for a Honda. And it's got 270-mile range on the all-drive version. All-drive version seems to have less range. I don't know if it's because the components...
Takes a little more to drive it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If you can find a fast charging station, you can get 110 kilometers of range in 5 minutes. Which is very impressive.
It's better than a Ford F-150 Lightning.
Yes. It has 5 seats. It looks a bit more like a hatch because it's a small transition, so it's kind of like a Q3.
Yeah.
And similar size to like a Honda CR-V, Toyota RAV4, blah, blah, blah.
So it's like a sort of semi-four drive,
semi-SUV.
Yeah,
that's right. And so... Hyundai say they're going to come up with this whole new range, which is called Ioniq, which I think is going to be their EV range. And the EV6 will be the sedan, like full-size sedan. And then the Ioniq 7 will be the full-size SUV. I'm talking about the 5 at the moment, which should be out in 2022, next year. So it's got a pixel theme throughout the lighting, inside and outside. And so the brake lights are like these cool squares. Photos will just make this much more interesting. Those who are listening on audio, I'll explain it. It's got like these little square pixels, as if you were watching something in very low resolution. And they're kind of in a square pattern on the rear of the car. And then when you turn the blinker on, it fills in the squares so that they're completely illuminated. It looks really cool. Front headlights are kind of a similar motif. Even the mirrors have like little strips of pixels, which I think is really cool. Charging port where you plug it in, business as usual, but you can buy an adapter for an additional amount of money, and it basically sends electricity back in the opposite direction. And you can plug in, their example was you can plug in a compressor and blow up a beach ball.
Yeah.
At the beach or something like that, which is kind of cool.
Not quite your work tools, like a...
No.
Yeah.
If you're comparing it to the Lightning, not quite as useful. Door handles are kind of like Tesla. They sit flush, and then you click unlock and they pop out, which is kind of cool. It's got quite a long wheelbase because it doesn't need to account for the engine in the front of the car. You can have very little overhang at the front of the wheels.
Yeah, okay.
And so what that means is you can spread the interior further out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But the car itself is still the same length. There's not very much ground clearance, so it's not very high, which makes it look more like a hatch as well. And it doesn't have the classic teardrop shape that we're seeing in a lot of these EVs, where they kind of come back to like a teardrop shape at the back.
Yeah.
The reasoning for that is it actually has like a spoiler that sits up to make it look more square, like a Q5. but the spoiler itself has totally open inside, and so the air can still follow the tier shape, but from the side, it actually looks like it's more square rear, which makes it look more SUV style. It's got a really strange, complicated, almost retro wheel design, in my opinion. A really interesting fact is it has a magnetic dashboard, and so you can stick reminder magnets on there or whatever you want. I assume it's meant to be to go with like car accessories that are magnetic or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It's a really minimalist interior. You can basically take, say we're in a car right now, you can take the whole center console in the front and you can slide the whole thing forward and back, even like everything down at kind of knee level, which is really strange. There's more pixel motifs throughout the car, little elements of it that kind of follow and flow throughout the car. And the gear selector is a column shifter, but instead of kind of moving the whole column like in a vintage American car, you just twist it and it assigns a drive, reverse, blah, blah, blah. It's got a start-stop button. A bunch of EVs nowadays don't have that. They have so smarter technology that can sense when you want to go forward and back and stuff like that as to what you, the inputs that you put into the car. This one does have a start-stop button, and it has climate control, but you have to go in through the infotainment system to get to that, which is kind of clunky.
True.
Same with the heated seats. It does have heated seats, but it's clunky. You have to kind of go through to find that. It has two 10-inch touchscreens, one for the gauge cluster, one for the infotainment system. They're kind of put together, which kind of looks kind of nice. And it has a bunch of preloaded nature sounds that you can play that are Hyundai created. The gauge cluster looks kind of standard. It's got a few drive modes, Eco Sport, Snow, Normal. And you can change these on the steering wheels. It's got paddle shifters, but we've spoken about this before. What does paddle shifters actually do in an electric car that doesn't have gears? Well, it just changes the amount of regen braking. And so it feels as though there's more resistance, like you're in first or second gear. And then you can also change it so it's like it's in fourth gear and it doesn't have much resistance going down a hill or whatever. And so that obviously, if you have a lot of resistance, that does create some regenerative braking and can help charge the battery. But it feels strange to drive. It has a really, really, really big sunroof slash moonroof. It doesn't open and it doesn't have any cross beams or anything. But it looks kind of nice. The driver's seat can be fully laid back and it has an electronic footrest that comes up, which is really interesting. And under the hood, there's a little bit of storage, which is cool. Not very much, but just a little bit. Size of a little 4-cylinder engine. And it's got a power tailgate. And the most interesting fact about the car is that you can stand outside the car. It has an unlock button on the fob and a lock button. It has a tailgate button, and then there's two other buttons. One that has a little car that points forward and back, and you can press forward and hold it, and the car, just by itself, just drives forward.
Okay.
Yeah, so the idea being you can park it in a tight car spot.
Really, and
hop out and then drive it in.
Great.
So there you go.